Is there a doctor in the house?
Doctor, you have a visitor in the main lobby.
Hello and welcome to the Talk To The Doc podcast. For today, we'll be diving into, I guess, one of the biggest myths of business leadership that, growth kind of automatically fixes all your problems. Sometimes it just gives you bigger, more expensive chaos with better branding. I'm your host, Steve the Doctor Meek, and the doctor is in. Our guest today is Anthony Davis, founder of Risky Creative. Anthony, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you for finding an appointment slot for me.
Well, we're glad to have you on. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit more about you so we can get to know you a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. I'm Ant Davis. I'm based here in the UK, and I have been a cybersecurity professional for about 14 years now. And I used to be an engineer. I came from a sales background and then came into IT support and then moved into cybersecurity. And I've focused really on the human side, the human element. So I used to be technical. I'm technical enough that I can understand it and have a conversation about it. But put me at the coalface, put me in a SOC or an analyst or looking at logs, I'd probably get lost now. But my kind of passion is the human side, talking to people. The sales and marketing of cybersecurity behaviors really is how I describe myself.
Well, that's kind of weird. It parallels myself a little bit. I started off in sales, then I accidentally got technical, and now I spend a lot more time behind the scenes on kind of the people side of things and so forth. So that's kind of funny how things work out sometimes. I'm just glad that we both got pulled to the dark side, but we're able to pull away. Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. As a fake doctor, one of the things I like to do is take you through the podcast and kind of chat with you, starting by the numbers. I'm a big metrics guy, so let's get into your vitals. The first thing I always ask people is about their pulse. And what I mean by pulse is kind of, the current state of the market, what industry trends are impacting you. So in your mind, what's the pulse statistic that's top of mind for you?
I think the big one for me is, I recently gave a talk on this as well. It's the human side of cybersecurity doesn't get the attention, the budget, the backing. It's not just monetary, but it's about everything. It doesn't get the attention that it deserves in my book. There are so many cyber attacks out there that antivirus or endpoint protection or any of these expensive tools won't protect us from, and it's up to the individuals. And the metric used to be 80%. In the latest Verizon report, I think it's 68% because they changed the way they measure it, not because the world's got safer.
Oh, gotcha.
It's
okay.
Something about 60 something percent of all cyber attacks involve a human factor. And then when you look at the budgets, if we take monetary for a moment, you look at a solution like CrowdStrike versus a solution like KnowBe4, for example.
Sure.
The cost differences, we spend 6 times more protecting the device with just one tool than we do with a typical endpoint, with a typical human security solution or human risk management solution. 6 times more to protect the device with one tool than we do the human. And that, to me, is all the wrong way round. It should be the other way, because so much can be stopped by humans if it doesn't feel right or look right. I'm close to preaching there, so I'll stop there. That's my problem. I think we've got it all backwards, and there needs to be more attention put on the human rather than technical solutions. I know why we choose technical solutions, and we can get into that, but it's wrong.
So talk to me a little bit about the psychology of that. You love the human element. You love that aspect of things. If any of the user risk reports and stuff, people make mistakes, those kinds of things. What do you do, or how do you feel like you reinforce that human element side to make the human more impactful in the loop of protecting organizations?
There can't be an assumption that so many people talk about how humans are the weakest link. And I often see that said as something you shouldn't say, like, oh, this is a really bad thing to say. But I feel like many organisations do see humans as the weakest link. But kind of humans are curious. Humans are inquisitive. Humans ask questions. They're curious. They wonder why things work. They're emotional. It's what makes us amazing and creative. Sure. And all of that, attackers, cyber criminals will take advantage of. They'll play on our curiosity or our inquisitiveness or our emotions to try and get us to engage with stuff. And I think one thing that I think I do in my work is I make cybersecurity relatable. And it's all about, it isn't someone else's job. It isn't someone else's problem. We're all a target. We're all vulnerable. We all have something that someone else wants, be it a social security number, be it a passport photo, be it a driver's license. We all have something or have access to something that a cyber criminal wants, both at home and in our organisations. And I think it's really important that we make cybersecurity relatable for us at home with our families and make it a dinner table conversation rather than it being this thing that just someone at work deals with that I don't need to think about.
Yeah, I think, in a post-COVID world, at least in my mind, there's so much more consumer technology out there that I sense that people feel so much more at ease with technology that we embrace it more, use it everywhere. But what are they missing? If you're trying to address that human element at home as well, how do you get that across to people?
I think the one way that has worked really well for me is by telling stories. So in the organisations that I used to work at, I would largely take items from the news, from anywhere in the world, and make them relatable. So it could be the story of a breach at a company that was in a similar vertical. I might tell it about it and how that would affect us at work. Or it could be about a social media ban, for example. There's lots of things going on in the UK about social media and Google and Facebook and everything, and about privacy controls. So many people, I'm a father, and so many people I know, friends of my daughter, don't have any parental controls on their accounts. And probably because the parents don't realise they're there, because parental controls isn't something that appears in a budget or on you can't sell. You probably could. They probably should. They'd probably be adopted more. But
Right.
They can sell ad revenue, but they can't sell parental controls. So there's not this massive push to do it. And I think that's a big thing for me. I think we have to make it relatable and just explain in simple ways how this is all good, how it's all normal, and how people can actually be secure and why they should care. And that's the big thing, making people care about cybersecurity.
I think I can see, or in my mind, I think I can visualize that, when you reinforce it in their own personal life and at home, that helps reinforce them thinking about it at work as well. Or am I missing kind of some of your mentality there?
So if we take my mum, for example, my mum's probably a bad example because she's probably too old, but you take someone who's detached, that's still in the workplace, but is detached from technology, and I think they care. What do they care about, really? They care about their own email account. They care about their bank account. They care about their own identity. They might not really care about their corporate identity, their corporate email. So if you're encouraging them to configure multi-factor authentication on their personal email account, or why you should have two-factor authentication on Facebook, or why you shouldn't just believe when someone calls you up and tells you that they're from your bank and that you have a bank issue. If you make them question these things at home and they understand that and they realise that it's not really difficult to have a complicated password or to use a password manager or to use MFA, then when you try and bring these controls into the workplace, or you try and enforce security controls into the workplace, they're already kind of switched on to those secure behaviours. And I want to keep my own email account safe. And I get now why it's really important that I keep my work emails safe. And you can do it in a work way as well. In the UK, for example, just take small businesses, for example. In the UK, there was a haulage company, a shipping, trucking company here that had been around for around 150 years. They were called Knights of Old. And a very old, well-known, their lorries would be seen on motorways up and down the country. Family-run business. They had a ransomware attack 2 or 3 years ago. They couldn't recover. The business shut. The business closed because they couldn't recover from a ransomware attack. So lots of people lost their jobs. That trademark, I think the brand has been bought by someone else now, a bigger company. But that's the impact it has. Now, I worked in a firm that had a logistics arm at the time. So we told everybody that story because it was immediately relatable. Oh,
Sure.
imagine if our trucks stopped leaving the depot. Imagine if we couldn't get our deliveries out. And straight away, we're not affected. But now I can relate. I can understand how that would impact. And I'm a driver, I would lose my job. That guy's a driver just like me and he's lost his job. So it's immediately relatable. And that's, again, storytelling and relatability are two massive, massive things that we can use to help make us secure at home and at work.
Now, there's an old saying, I'm not sure if it's across the pond as well, but, there's a security saying that, you're only as secure as your least secure connection. But the attackers only have to get through one time. We've got to be successful 100% of the time. Isn't there an argument that the reason people focus on systems is because we always know that there's going to be that one guy that even if 99 people follow the rules all the time, there's that one person who isn't?
I think so. But I would argue there's probably always that one system that hasn't been patched or hasn't had its updates installed. Or
That's true.
There's that old telephone system that sits under the desk, under Dave's desk, and you can't turn that box off. No one knows when it was last restarted. No one knows if it will start up again. But just leave it there and it's fine. And that kind of, it's there, no one thinks about it. I think in every organisation that there would be skeletons in the closet. There's probably a cyber saying for that. I don't know. Old patch panels in the server rack or something like that. There's probably something somewhere in every organisation that hasn't been touched, hasn't been looked at.
Yeah, definitely. When we've onboarded organizations and we're going through the closets, the racks, all those things, and we're like, hey, what does this device do? It's plugged in. There's, looked up there's black box. It doesn't have a label, and we don't know, but it's still on because no one asked the question, kind of thing. And sometimes things are still powered on and not plugged into anything where they could do stuff. But unless someone's being mindful of those things, it's hard to catch.
In some organisations as well, I think where those devices, if an organisation has grown quite quickly, it could be that there's a shipping system that's running on an Access database on a box on a desk, and it's running an old version of Excel or an old version of Access, that no one knows if it's supported by the new version. So it's kind of, and these things, quite often, I think, people haven't got the time to investigate if it can be updated, if it's supported, because especially if you're in a fast-growing organisation or you're in a small business, that's no one's job really to do this. I suppose it could be your job, and that's why people might engage with you. We've got all these things we need sorting. We haven't got the time to sort it. So, and it's identifying that it is important. We do need to address these. Even, we could spend a whole hour talking about like AI tools and Claude and stuff, but with Claude Mythos, once everyone else catches up, the amount of patches that are going to come down the pipe over the next 6 to 12 to 18 months, so many systems are going to have updates to install. And I've known international organisations here in the UK that don't have a patching process. They don't have a patching schedule, so they don't know if and when those devices can be turned off and turned on again because their systems rely on them running. So these are the conversations we need to have, not just with our end users, but with our admin people and the people that look after these systems. How are we ready for this? Can we turn it off? Will it turn on again? What's affected if it doesn't come back? Who knows?
Yeah, on our most recent patching schedule, or should I say schedule? I can't remember. But anyways, on our most recent patching schedule, I noticed that Microsoft has like a historic largest ever number of patches being released, like 200 plus patches. And I'm wondering if it is And of course, we've got Copilot, but Mythos or some other tool that they're using or something that they have access to identify more and more of the vulnerabilities that we need to catch out there.
Yeah, I think we're going to see across the board, we're going to have systems being patched that probably haven't had patches released for a long, long time. Every now and again, Apple will release a patch for an old iPad that hasn't seen. It's like, wow, you haven't updated iOS 7 in 6 years, but here you are with a critical update. And it will just be a tiny little update, but it just patches. Every now and again, they'll leak one like once a year because it's big enough. And I think we're going to see more of that, definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about something we've been talking about. We just kind of got into finding that one device under the desk, that technical issue in the closet or whatever, that device that's left on. But, we were talking about users and the user psychology. I think I read in Proofpoint's like 2025 report, something like 1% of the users were responsible for something like 76% of the data loss events. So we talked about how do you identify that one device? How do you find that 1% of users in your organization to embrace the human element, to tell the stories, to convince that one person that, hey, you need to be more mindful besides the habit things that we're talking about on the home side?
It's really difficult. I've worked in organisations, in small businesses it must be really hard. I've worked in organisations that have had a few thousand people, and the last organisation I worked at had hundreds of thousands of people. And knowing where your risky areas are is really important, because I think in a lot of organisations it used to be, and I've done this before for many years, you deliver one piece of training, you deliver one message out to everyone, and it's the same message out to everyone. I think what you find is different people within your business, so multiple things. Number one, have access to different systems, have access to different data. Processes are different in those places as well. And there's so many layers to this. You really need to build risk profiles based on your user. And it doesn't need to be, there are platforms that do this now, and it doesn't need to be really complicated. You don't need to interrogate everyone. But just understanding, okay, where are my biggest areas of risk? It's like financial risk. What do I have a risk register? What's on my risk register? Is it financial? If it's financial, then you could probably say, right, accounts, and probably the people that do payroll, I might go in with them. Personal data, HR, let's talk to, our human resources function, because they've got access to everyone's records. And recruitment, let's talk to recruitment as well. Having conversations, so much of my job, I think, so much of the job that people like me do is about building relationships. Having conversations with people about what it looks like in their world, some empathy. What does it look like through your eyes? Fairly often, I think this 1% of the work population causing 70% of the breaches, quite often you might find that that's a process that is flawed.
Sure.
We've done it that way for years. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is, no one's looked at it with a security hat on and gone, there's a better, safer way to do that. So there might be a process there that, we always send all of our bank details on an email without a password because we've just always done it that way and it's been fine. No, that's not okay anymore. There's a better way. So having conversations in larger organisations, I'm a big advocate for security champions. So you build a network of people that can wear your badge, have a conversation. My old chief technology officer described it as a spy network. And I was like, I can't call it a spy network. I need to call it something friendlier than that. But you literally want to go out and make friends and allies. So you have a contact that you can push information out to, but then they can also give information back going, can I talk to you about this? Because I don't think this is right. And then straight away, you can't be everywhere. People that work in security teams or whoever is responsible for security is normally one person, two people, could be bigger, but they can't be on the factory floor, at the front door, in accounts, in HR. So you need to make friends. Relationships everywhere, honest conversations. And just lastly, what that really, really does is it stops you from being seen as a team that blocks people, let me know, to a team of no problem, because I think that's really important. So often cybersecurity is seen as a blocker as the team that, I've said it, oh no, someone said to me in an organisation, no, you can deliver that message because it's enforcement and you guys are good at enforcement. No, we should be good at enabling secure solutions, enabling us all to work safer. That's what we should be doing.
That's so important, designing things for the context of the organization instead of, one hard, fast rule for everybody. And as a provider to a variety of organizations, that's been, less than 20 years ago, finally hit me that, okay, you can't be so hard set in your ways that you don't recognize that organizations are different. Their risk profiles are different. Their requirements are different. So it makes sense that everyone's got a different spot on that slider where they want to locate that makes sense for them.
Do you know what, Steve? I was at a workshop yesterday. I ran a security awareness workshop, and I had people from about 30 different companies all in this room talking about Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And I think everybody had unique challenges, and challenges in not just in risk, but in the way they engage with their end users, the platforms they use, the way that the message would be framed. No one business is the same as another business, which makes it really hard to implement some of these tools that are like, it'll just work, just do this, do that, and it won't, because every business in its own way is unique in a brilliant way. I mean, it makes it fun when you change jobs and it's like, oh, it's different here. We used to do it that way. Not anymore. So every business is unique. And I think that means the messaging, the way it lands, the way you talk about stuff, not just the tooling, but the cultures are all different.
One great thing I think I took away from your comments was that don't be so worried about making sure 100% of your users are 100% correct all the time. Be more concerned about those privileged users, those users who have access to important things, and make sure that prioritize those users first, and in your efforts to not necessarily worry about the 1%, just worry about those people who do have access as a priority.
I think over here, I don't know what it's like where you are in Texas, but I know over here it's there has been a culture of compliance in the past where people just chase the green tick. They chase the audit. Oh, we're compliant. We're secure. Compliance is a great baseline. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we shouldn't be compliant. Compliant is a great baseline. It's good for a lot of people. But if you want to be really secure, you need to go beyond that. And compliance, has everybody done their training? Yes, everybody's done their training. Brilliant. Now what? Now where do we really get secure? And that's where who's got access, who's got the keys to the kingdom, and who's got access to all the good stuff. Because that's when it's really, they're the ones you need to then have those conversations with.
Right. Yeah, good stuff. Well, let's go ahead and let's move on. I believe in a holistic body. It's more than just the pulse. Let's talk about your blood pressure. So blood pressure is kind of the performance metrics that tell the story for you these days. What's the blood pressure statistic for you these days?
So I think I just touched on it. A lot of organisations are still measuring how many people have completed training, how many people have clicked on a phishing email, if they simulate phishing, which many businesses do. But for me, we need to look at beyond that, and we need to look at the positive behaviours. We need to look at how many people are reporting phishing emails. The reporting rate tells us so much more, because that tells us who's doing the good stuff. And that's the number. You want a massive reporting rate, because a fail rate on phishing, for example, might just be people who are ignoring it, they didn't get it, they're deleting it. Reporting, you want to know what's happening. You want to know what's knocking on the door of your business. If you had a load of like burglars knocking on the door every night, you'd want to know, because you'd want to increase your security. And it's exactly the same with phishing. Training completion as well. It's pretty much meaningless, really, apart from compliance. So for me, what really measures my health would be engagement. How many conversations am I having? How often is security spoken about in a business? Is leadership talking about security? If there's a CEO, if there's a senior manager that's received a phishing email, genuine one, let them tell the story on a town hall or on a video call. Tell everyone, because people listen to them. So it's all about building that culture where security is part of the conversation here, there, and everywhere. And if you can just measure those. Measurement is really, this is why the human side gets less investment, going back to what we said right at the beginning, with tools that you buy off the shelf, products, solutions, the metrics are really easy because you can say it's installed here and the logs tell us it's done this and it's done that. Humans are a little fluffier. They're a little softer. We're kind of like marshmallow, like it's really hard. We could be any shape and then we might get a bit sticky and it's difficult. So measurement and engagement is really, really important in this space, definitely.
So if those are the positive things that we should be doing, what's the inverse of that? What are the early warning signs that an organization's blood pressure is getting too high before a real crisis hits?
Well, I think if people aren't reporting emails, if people aren't having conversations, that's a problem. I also think if right now there's so many organisations are worried about shadow AI, for example. We've talked about shadow IT for years. Shadow AI is the same name, and that's obviously where people are using tools and solutions that haven't been approved. This room of people I was in yesterday, 32 different companies, it was like, do you have a third-party provider approval program? If someone wants to use a new tool, is there an approval process? And they all said, yeah. Okay, is that a simple process? Is it quick? If I want to use a new tool, can I typically use it within 24 hours? No, because it's complicated. When you want to use a new solution, it's really hard. So people are going out there and using tools, using new pieces of software, AI solutions to do transcripts and translate and ChatGPT and Claude and all of this. No one knows where the data's going. And there's a real issue. You get visibility of that, you solve a lot of problems, but it's that culture. It's okay to ask. It's kind of like customer service. It all comes back to customer service. What's the user experience like? Is being secure a good user experience? Because if it isn't, people won't be secure. They'll take their business to the dark side and they'll be insecure because they just want to get stuff done. If being secure is a good customer service experience, it's efficient, it's effective, it doesn't stop them or block them, then people will be happier to be secure. So,
and it feels a little bit cannibalistic to think that, when there's a shadow AI issue, then I've got to go use AI to research the privacy policies and background of the company. I don't know. Anyways, so are there, if those aren't the metrics, are there different ones that leaders should be obsessing over today that, actually create unhealthy behaviors inside the company? Is it those click rates and those kinds of things that maybe focusing on that too much?
I think click rates has always been the easy one from someone that's run phishing simulation tools for years. Click rates was always the metrics that were reliable. You could kind of mold them a little bit as well by sending an easier simulation or a harder simulation. So depending on the mood you wanted to get, but they've kind of been the faithful, tried and tested metric for a long time. But you need to get, they're definitely what we should be moving away from. Rather than just reporting that one, you probably should be reporting 4 or 5. You should be reporting reported, and you should be reporting true positive and false positives, and you want to record how many times someone's contacting your help desk or your service desk or your IT person to ask a question about security. I think they're the really, and even I used to log conversations on Slack. So every time we had Slack in an organisation I was on, the chat tool, and every time someone mentioned the word phishing, I would get pinged. So I used to be able to say, this is how many times there's been a conversation on these topics. And just that is like really, how much is security being spoken about? Again, sales and marketing, you want it to be, someone goes to a fridge, you want them to pick a can of Coke. If someone's going to perform an action, you want them to choose the secure action. So you need to keep telling them about security. It's hard to measure. It's really hard to measure in many organisations because every organisation is different. And many of the tools, many of the platforms people have will promise the earth, but they don't always deliver. So it's difficult.
Now, one of the other things that I think sometimes can be a challenge is, people rely on the security awareness tools, but within the organization there may not be, or at least in small businesses, there may not be an executive, someone who wants to be the champion for security awareness. And so basically you've got tools, they're doing their thing, but there's no one internally making it fun or doing the follow-up or championing it or those kinds of things. For those organizations, what would you tell them? How do they get started? Why is that so important?
I think it's really to have some kind of executive sponsor for your function that isn't the CISO or isn't the head of security. To have someone from outside the security function be a person that will happily tell a security story or will happily repost your message or will forward on your email or talk about it. I think that's really important. And I mentioned champions earlier. If your business is of a certain size, you may decide to have a champions network. It could be 5 people. Mm-hmm. It could be Kathy that works in the post room. It could be Dave that works in the haulage room. It could be literally 2, 3, 4, 5 people. You've got a network. Suddenly there's not one of you that care about it. There's 5 of you. But then if you get someone in senior leadership to also be the sponsor of that, so powerful. It's really, really powerful. So yeah, it doesn't need to be a big ask. It can be really simple. And most of what I used to do at the organisation I worked at was fun. It was light-hearted. I used puppets. I used to make videos on my phone, just a bit different, that stood out, just to break from the monotony that is a lot of internal messaging. Because it can be interesting. And it is. People, if you frame it right, people really do care. I used to get the best engagement in my organisation, better than internal comms. The only team that got better than me were the senior leaders, were the managers and the board. And that's why they're powerful, because they're the ones everyone listens to. They're the real inspirations within a business. They drive the culture. If you've got values in your business or you've got core messages, just adding the word secure in there, like delivering effective solutions. What about delivering secure, effective solutions? Just having the word secure as part of the company values is really important. And like we've said, companies can live or die based on one security incident. All it takes is one significant security incident, and your business may no longer exist or may exist.
Now, along with that, how do healthy organizations kind of avoid that shifting into kind of a fear-based leadership?
Fear's really fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We call it FUD.
Right.
FUD's a massive thing that, again, so many people that do our job try and steer away from. I think sometimes it can be useful to get attention, as long as you kind of don't just leave it with that. But yeah, it's difficult. But if you just scare people all the time, they won't know what to do, which is why, again, it's quite important that we don't just focus on the negative actions. We talk about the positive actions. So I would like to thank you, Doc, for reporting a phishing email. You reported a phishing email. We removed it from 15 mailboxes, and it was really nasty. But thank you for reporting it, because it means we haven't been hurt by that. I want to be the one being thanked for saving the business. So I'm going to forward the next phishing email I get. That kind of positive behaviour, it could have been really nasty, a little bit of fear, but we're okay because you reported it. Well done. Thank you. Do that on a business town hall or at a company stand-up or something like that. It will be so impactful. It really, really will make a difference. So yeah, focus on the positives.
Now, in your experience, you're telling stories, you've got a variety of things you're doing. What else should an executive be doing to kind of reinforce that security culture? Maybe they added security to somewhere in their core values or in their vision statement. What are some other ways, that maybe smaller, that they can kind of impact that security quotient for the organization?
I think it's really important that they put their trust and faith in the security team or the person doing security in the business. I've been in an organisation where we found out third hand that the CEO thought his iPhone was hacked, so he sent it off to someone that a friend recommended. You've got a whole security team here. We could have dealt with it there and then, and we probably needed to know what was going on, but you've just dealt with it on your own. So kind of having trust and faith. It's really difficult in some businesses, because there is, in some businesses it's not always the way, but quite often there is like this, the leaders are kind of in this ivory tower wrapped in bubble wrap, and they're not always with everyone else. Security doesn't care who you are, what you are, how much you get paid, or what car you drive. All it cares about is, can it get you, and how badly can it get you? And senior leaders are a target to everyone. They're some of the biggest targets in business because CEO deep fakes and fraud and stuff like that. No, everyone. We had a middle manager in an organisation. Someone faked his email and encouraged an employee in a different country to go and buy gift cards from Walmart. We're based in the UK. They went to Walmart and bought a load of Amazon gift cards, I think they were, and scratched off the back and sent them the numbers. And they'd done it out of their own pocket because this middle manager said that they could expense it. I really needed them for a meeting. And that's not even the CEO. Imagine like if it was a message from the CEO. Imagine what they'd do. So just be open and don't feel like everyone's out to get you. We're all in this together, and your transparency and honesty in this as a senior leader is so crucial.
Well, I really like the context of going in, adding the word secure to whatever it is that you do, whatever it is you produce, sell, provide, whatever. I think that's a great takeaway for organizations. Whatever it is that they're doing, make it part of the day to day, so that it sticks with everyone. Although you did plant a seed that now I think my cell phone might be bugged, so I may have to have somebody check that out to make sure that I'm safe and protected.
It wasn't me, I promise.
Okay, I'm easily ego whipped. I don't know if you knew that. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the weight. Weight, I think, makes a difference in most things. I think of that as a strategy. What's the strategy? It doesn't always seem obvious, but it has an impact on everything. What's the strategy metric you think leaders should know about or be focused on?
I think is whoever's dealing with the human side of security in your organisation, I think it's really important that you just give them some respect and some time. And it's not just about money. Quite often it's a seat at the table. It could be part of the conversation, or just opening doors for them, just introducing them to people across the business. Don't get me wrong, headcount, tooling is important. But I've worked in very large teams that have been less impactful than a team of two. So it's not all about headcount. It's about reach, influence, and exposure quite often. So just open the doors and enable them, I think. That's really important. Yeah, you don't need to buy another platform. Buy a decent platform and trust in your practitioner, whoever you've got doing your phishing or your training. Trust in them. And look beyond annual training, quarterly training. You need to get more. A lot of the tooling now is like doing more in the moment, just in time training. When you perform an action, you'll get notified that you've just acted in a risky way and you need to make changes. That's the way the market's going. Not everyone needs it. Some people are happy with their annual training. I get that. Every business is unique. But just open the doors and get people a seat at the table, part of the conversation.
Now, are there other tips and tricks that you utilize aside from the storytelling and other things to make those security lessons more salient to the average person? Obviously, you're talking about you're framing it similar to like their personal and those kinds of things. But let's say you've got somebody who doesn't have a family, isn't concerned about parental controls, isn't really using technology at home. They just use it at work. What are the tactics you use to kind of reach that kind of a person?
So quite often, not peer pressure, but for example, in an organisation, and culturally, I heard yesterday this was strange. People that leave their computer unlocked when they leave their desk, for example. Oh, is that a problem? Well, I could get on your computer and I could perform actions as you. I could access your data that I might not have permission to access. So in the businesses I used to work at, it used to be before you walk away from your computer screen, lock your screen. Windows key and L, lock it. Apparently in Japan, the culture of locking the screen is not a thing. People weren't familiar with why they should lock the screen. I heard that yesterday. Someone had some colleagues in Japan and they were like, how do we lock our screen? Why do we lock our screen? Why would we do that? So I think having that kind of, it used to be, if you don't lock your screen, someone will jump on there, go on Slack and go, hacked by, or send an email to, there's some merit in that. I think I've done all kinds of things. I've just little positive reinforcement inside the mug cupboard in the kitchen. Just putting a little message saying, did you lock your screen? On the wall above a urinal in a toilet or on the back of the toilet door, did you lock your screen? Or other secure messaging. Just to kind of reinforce, because, maybe I should. And they might not understand why, but if they see the message enough and it's there, maybe they'll start locking their screen. And we've had scenario tests in business. We had a red team exercise. And again, this is quite good to do. We had some security people come in, try and gain access to the building in a simulation. They gained access, and they gained access to the network and removed some data from the network because they came across a computer in the office that was not locked. That was their way in. So we told that story. Do you want to be the one that lets the bad guys in? You might not care about it. You might not be the most technical person, but do you want to be the weakest link? Again, a little bit of fear and uncertainty to kind of wrap it up, but sometimes you need to do that. I think just help people understand why it's important. And it's not just locking screens. It could be tailgating through the entrances, or leaving a fire door open, or all kinds of things.
We've it was more of a thing when we were all in, when everyone was always in office, as opposed to kind of more the hybrid work that we have now. But I have some great stories of setting out, even if the screen automatically locked in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever. I was sending emails out from people that, hey, I love My Little Pony. Hey, I'm buying lunch for everybody today. Has anyone seen my, whatever? Just sending out funny messages from people. And I even had one sent out for mine one time. And I used to love the little messages that go around when you knew somebody left their machine unlocked and walked away from it.
Do you know, I was on a train a few weeks ago, a 3-hour train ride, and someone at a table across from me left their laptop unlocked for 9 minutes. They were on their own. They were the only person at that table, but there were other people on the carriage. They left their laptop unlocked for 9 minutes. I could have had all of it in 9 minutes. I could have got everything off that hard drive. And then they were sat there doing some planning and schematics for like blueprints for a building. And I sat there and I thought, imagine if I changed the strength of that steel, or I changed the width of that pipe. It could be catastrophic if I knew what I was doing, or something, apart from the data. So that person obviously didn't lock their screen when they left. They didn't have an auto lock on. And I timed it 9 minutes. It's mad, absolutely mad. The other thing is conversations as well. That's the big thing you've said about hybrid working. If you're on the train, where do you take a phone call? How do you carry your laptop to and from the office? Is it in a carrier bag, under your arm? Are you talking about a new business deal whilst waiting for coffee in Starbucks? And are you divulging confidential information? They're all conversations, all stories that you can tell.
Now, how do organizations, small organizations, maybe they've got a provider like us, maybe they've got a person or two internal. How does an executive gauge whether that internal person is doing a good job at supporting those initiatives towards security awareness? What questions can an executive ask or should be asking?
I think asking some kind of metric around how culturally important security within the business is. Having conversations around, is it just click rates, or are there reporting rates there as well? Are there other metrics that you can report on? How many conversations are you having? Encouraging people to, how much engagement. Are you sending out messages about security? And if you are, what's the engagement like? Are we seeing some growth? Shall we try some new things? I think just having a conversation with them, it's so often the person that does the human side of security is siloed on their own. And someone yesterday at this workshop was shocked when they heard this so much, because they were like, I've got really good engagement with everyone. But quite often you're not technical. Quite often You might not come from a security background. You're quite often sat within the security function. You might also not be policy driven. You might be sat within a policy team. It's a really, I know many people that do this job and they're teams of one, teams of two. And it's very much feeling loved is really important, feeling valued. What we do as a security awareness professional is one of the most important jobs in a business, because no matter how big your business is, 50 people, 5,000 people, 500,000 people, any one of those people could leave a door open, be it and click on a link or an actual physical door. And if our messaging makes them change that behaviour, it's change. It's fundamentally we're trying to change people's behaviours. It's so important, more so than any tool. Any tool it operates after. We're trying to change the before, so it's really important.
So when you're changing that behavior, what behaviors show you that a company truly has that security culture mentality instead of just, passing assessments or being compliant, as you put it earlier?
I think the one big thing, and the phrase that is quite often used now, is psychological safety. Mm-hmm. So do people feel confident enough to report any mistakes they make, any concerns they have? Do they feel like they're going to be penalised? If people feel psychologically safe, that they'll be supported should they decide to reach out about a concern, that's huge. So I think it's really, really important. Psychological safety is the one. Having a culture that will put an arm around someone if they've clicked a link or if they've shared something incorrectly. You're not going to penalise them. You're not going to punish them. That's really important, because then other people will come forward. If you punish people, people won't tell, and then you don't know what's happening.
That's definitely probably the quickest way leadership can accidentally undermine the culture while they think they're improving accountability. Now, are there other things that leaders can do that can undermine the culture?
I think doing their own thing. If I've seen leaders bring different tools in, or they've turned up at a town hall using an unapproved tool, they need to lead by example, and quite often they don't, because quite often leaders aren't engaged in the everyday messaging that will be put out. So it might be an idea to make, if a CEO has an executive PA or something like that, you probably want to make them your best friend, because they're the ones that will have influence over the leaders.
Sure.
So making sure that they're on brand and on message is really important. That they don't tell everyone to use some brand new tool, and it's like, no, we haven't. We're not ready for that. We can't. I had one leader in a business that on a call said, basically, it was a call about something, and then they went, so go hack everything. Find out where our weaknesses are. Go and hack everything. This was in a technology company. And it's like, no, because all of a sudden everyone's downloading these tools and the alerts are flying and the security team's all of a sudden massively busy, which means a real attack could get missed because of all these false positives. So it's, just being communication. Again, seat at the table, communication, making friends is really important.
So what's, we're almost at the end of Q2, but, kind of based on that, what's one practical thing an executive team can do in Q3 to kind of improve security culture without kind of increasing that employee frustration or causing new issues?
I think applauding positive security behaviours would be a massive thing. So, and that can happen in any quarter. Well done, this person, for reporting this phishing email, for reporting this process that was vulnerable that we've now changed. As far as messaging is concerned, if we're looking at the calendar and it's like, what's going to be important now? I think now's the time to reinforce installing updates in a timely fashion, making sure people are behaving securely. Because, like I said before, there's going to be a flood of updates over the next 6 to 9 months with all the AI vulnerability scanners that are going to come out once Mythos is here, and it's limited at the moment. But the CEO of Mythos, of Anthropic, said that the Far East and other countries will be caught up in 6 months. So you don't want people holding off on their updates. And just help them feel safe. Just literally changing your culture from one of penalising those that are vulnerable to actually supporting them is really, really important. It's pretty much timeless what we do. It's, we talk about shadow AI. It used to be shadow IT. it's just in a different. It's been the same since con men were stealing watches off wrists 150 years ago. It's the same thing. It's the same tactics. It's still playing on empathy and it's playing on emotions, and a lot of it's primal.
I absolutely loved reading Kevin Mitnick's books. Just as a security practitioner, I so focused on the technical side. I had no idea, like a lot of the social engineering, those kinds of things. And, during his time, I really appreciated the insight into the human condition and how easy it was to bypass whatever he was trying to bypass just by understanding how things work, using the right words, all kinds of things that he did to kind of do what he did.
It's amazing how, we all typically want to help. We don't like seeing someone suffer. We also like to win things, and we like to be flattered. And these are all techniques that get used. Just this week, there was a ransomware group that tried to socially engineer on email and over the phone. And if that didn't work, they'd turn up at your reception saying they were from IT and they needed to plug this USB stick in to do some stuff. And it's, they're actually come to your door and try and talk to your receptionist. It's crazy. And no AV products, no antivirus tool is going to protect you from that. Yeah, it could stop the USB, but then there might be another way. Do you know what I mean? So it's really important that we treat our people as systems. The human is an operating system, only it can't really be patched.
Right.
We need to understand it.
Not even peptides. I heard peptides can patch it. Sorry, well, Anthony, around Texas, we use this phrase "fixin." Are you familiar with fixin? Well, around Texas, FIXIN. Yeah. Anyways, there's a big difference between fixing a problem and actually solving one. Right. So before we ride off into the Texas cybersecurity sunset here, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners chewing on during their next coffee break?
I think stop treating people as the problem. People are the solution. And I think you need to invest in your people and the messaging you give to your people in order to be safer. I think, like I said, you can throw money at it, but you need to listen, have some... All of the tools that the attackers use, we need to use. We need to have empathy. We need to understand emotions. So your people are the solution, not the problem. So don't treat them like they're a problem, I think is the key.
Excellent. I like it. And, I don't know about physician visits in the UK, but, usually after a great visit, we fill you up with every prescription you could ever want. No questions asked. But if this were a doctor's visit, what are some other, small recommendations that you could make in regards to, security awareness, education, the psychology of people?
Things I'd recommend would don't put off those difficult conversations. My mum had her email account hacked a few months ago, and it was because I'd putting multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication on her email account. My mum's amazing at security because she's got me as a son, so she'll ask me about every email and every phone call. She's really cautious, but I had put off enabling two-factor authentication on our Outlook account because I thought the behaviour change would be too hard. Mm-hmm. And then not only did I have to do that behaviour change piece, but I had to clean up her email account that had been hacked as well, so I had twice as much work. So don't put it off, and it wasn't that hard in the end. So I think just being secure, having those open conversations, I think is really, really important. And the simples, use a password manager and don't write down your passwords. A password book works fine for my mum. It doesn't need to be just all those basics, really. It's a lot of them haven't changed for a long time. The world is still the same. It's just now with AI.
That's right. It's supercharged. Although, before we part here in just a second, I just have to ask, I don't know, here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we also have an Anthony Davis. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's the opposite of what you would call a beloved character in Dallas-Fort Worth. But any connection to this basketball player, Anthony Davis?
Well, I imagine that he's in the doctor's office more than I am, I think. And I actually have a pair of his socks. His name is spelled exactly the same as mine. And I'm sure when he first came out, he went by Ant Davis, but I have the .com and the .co.uk. So he can
missed
buy it
out.
off me if he wants to give me lots of money, but antdavis.com is mine, so he can't have that.
Well, I'm so glad I met you then, because I'm glad you locked him out. In the area, he earned the nickname Street Clothes just because he was always injured all the time.
Yeah. He's such talent, but I sharing the name, I kind of keep a check, and apparently I know he's quite injury prone.
I think a lot of it was just all the way to that one eyebrow.
It's a
heavy brow to bear.
Heavy is the brow that there's a saying.
That wears the crown.
Yeah.
How can people reach you if they want to reach out?
I am on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. They're all Ant Davis Cyber, and obviously there's the podcast that I do. This podcast is brilliant, but when you finish listening to this every episode, you can find my podcast, which is the Awareness Angle.
It's a couple of podcasts. Just link them together, write them side by side. It's the vehicle to the future.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
Well, we'll make sure and get your link and get that added to the show notes and all your contact information so that people can reach you. And as for myself, you can always reach me, the doctor, at fulcrumgroup.net, all spelled out, the doctor, not to be confused with Doctor Who. I guess that brings us to the end of the doctor's appointment today. And I think the big thing I took away from it was, stop treating your people like the weakest link in cybersecurity, and maybe start treating them like your greatest force multiplier that your organization has to secure your environment, protect your most important information and data, and be your advocate as opposed to someone who stays quiet and never tells you what's going on.
I think you've done that better than I could. Well done.
It's teamwork. So if you've enjoyed today's conversation, make sure you subscribe to Talk to the Doc on your favorite podcast platform. Also, Ants, we'll make sure and put that in there. Share this episode with a friend, fellow ne'er-do-well, roadside bandit. I don't care. Share it with everyone. We want everyone to be informed about the importance of cybersecurity awareness and changing the world. I'm your host, Steve the Dr. Meek, and the doctor is out. Thanks so much, Ant. I appreciate your time today.